TV set that tastes like wine, cryogenic endocrine. It keeps the lizards changing size, just like Bert I. Gordon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Classic Horrors Club podcast companion. We are a video companion to the audio podcast, the Classic Horrors Club podcast, which you can listen to in full by following the link below. I am Jeff Owens from classichorrors.club.
And I'm Richard Chamberlain from monstermoviekid.wordpress.com.
Richard, you look all tangled up in a web. What, where are you? What's going on?
I am caught in a web of the giant spider. And I guess you could say I'm representing Earth because it's Earth versus the giant spider. One of the two films we'll be covering on this month's special themed retrospective. Earth versus the Spider was released in 1958. And 57-58 was a sweet spot for the legendary writer, producer, director, Mr. Big himself, Bert I. Gordon.
And I'm here a couple decades later, and this guy looks kind of scary, but really he's just a pussycat. He's my friend, but he is a giant rat. And interesting that Bert I. Gordon didn't really change his technique much from his early days with movies like The Spider and Beginning of the End to his late in his career when he did Food of the Gods and Empire of the Ants, something we talk about in detail on the audio podcast. Today, we're going to try to show you some clips from those and kind of emphasize or demonstrate some of the things that we say on the podcast with that extra additional medium of being able to see, not just hear.
Well, and he had a lengthy career from his debut film in 54 with a film called Serpent Island, probably more focus on island than serpent in that one, all the way up to as recent as 2015 when he did Secrets of a Psychopath. We just recently lost Mr. Big. He passed away in March at the age of 100, which was the inspiration for us to do another retrospective. It'll be an interesting journey because we do talk about how he hits that sweet spot in 57-58, and he was really big on people growing to large proportions or kind of shrinking. And he was also really big on rear screen projection, which might have worked in the 1950s. Later on in his career, he kind of stuck with it and didn't always work for him quite as well, especially when we talk about our second film, which is The Food of the Gods from 1976.
And you mentioned reading the book, Food of the Gods. We did quite a bit of research between the two of us for this episode, and I'll just go ahead and point out my sources. One is his autobiography, which is called The Amazing Colossal World of Mr. B.I.G. We have an issue of Rue Morgue magazine from 2015. This is a nice retrospective of his films, but this also came out at the time of his most recent movie that Richard mentioned, Secrets of a Psychopath, and he talks a little bit about that. And then we have a glorious book called Giant Monsters of Filmland that has an essay about Food of the Gods by some joker named Jeff Owens. Some research. We don't just get together and blab, although I'm sure that's what it sounds like, but we often do research, and this episode is full of research.
Enter the cavern of unknown horrors. Listen.
What's that noise?
I don't know.
See, the only existing specimen of a spider, bigger than a human.
Man, I better find out what made this creature so big. And find out fast, or we're all going to be in pretty serious trouble.
For shocking, skin-crawling excitement, meet face to face 50 creeping tons of black horror. See the spider.
I actually thought, for the most part, that the special effects played off well in this one because it matches what other giant bug movies were at the time.
My I can't see.
Probably the weakest special effect was the web,
I think
which
so.
was really just a series of rope.
What is this thing we fell in?
I don't know. Awfully sticky, though.
I was gonna say the end when the spider is sort of just hanging there.
Yeah.
That's not a real spider, and it's like a trash bag filled with lard that's hanging there.
Yeah, that's a pretty rough shot. I forgot about that.
This was a first time watch, and I think it was like the perfect drive-in movie. It just really had the nostalgia of the small town and the high school kids, and I could just see watching that at the drive-in, during that era, and I really enjoyed it. There's a lot that's silly, but it's just fun. It's really charming and really fun. I liked it quite a bit.
I did too. I mean, it is,
and it is gruesome. My goodness, the beginning when the father is killed in the pickup, that's bloody. I think it's Mike, the boyfriend, works at the movie theater, which is showing the Amazing Colossal Man.
yes.
And then also, if you look carefully, there's lobby cards for Attack of the Puppet People. That's kind of fun.
Hello.
It was filmed as the Spider. And then just before completion, they changed it to Earth versus the Spider. And that was used for the main title in the film itself. The Fly was released and then became a huge hit for 20th Century Fox. So AIP said, well, gosh, we got to capitalize on this, and decided to market it as the Spider. Even though when you watch the film, it still says Earth versus the Spider.
We had enough spiders around here.
More frightening than his War of the Worlds. More imaginative than his time machine. Now, H.G. Wells' masterpiece of science fiction, The Food of the Gods. The terrifying tale of man fighting for his life against an ecology gone berserk. This is the last chance for an unsuspecting world against harmless animals and insects made huge and vicious by the food of the gods. Marjo Gortner. Pamela Franklin. Ralph Meeker. Ida Lupino. H.G. Wells' The Food of the Gods, for a taste of hell. Rated PG.
This is one I remember seeing when it came out in theaters. Did not like it. I mean, even as a youngster, the special effects and the pace, I just didn't care for it. But as an adult, I have watched it many times. I have written about it, studied it, listened to the commentary. I kind of fooled myself into thinking I really liked it. I waited to the last minute to watch Food of the Gods again. But it was nice because I could just sat back. I'm not going to take any notes. I'm not going to form any thoughts about it. I've done all that. I'm just going to see how it plays. And I've gone full circle. I didn't care for it too much. And that's the thing about this time that I haven't had in my previous watches was laughing. The chickens. You see it and you can think, okay, that's a bad effect, and you can not like it and blah, blah, blah. But I actually laughed this time when I saw those chickens. Not the split screen real chickens, but the chicken heads with beaks that didn't move and eyes that were stationary, pecking.
When the rats are crawling on the cabin, it is so obvious that they're not crawling on the cabin. They are crawling on like a picture.
Just like beginning of the end with the grasshoppers on the tall building.
I know, but while it was more acceptable in the late 50s,
right?
I don't know. Even though 76 was now decades ago, but it stood out really bad. I'm like, I mean, you couldn't come up with a miniature?
Yeah, well, that's the disappointing thing about Bert I. Gordon, is that he didn't ever progress. I mean, he found his stick and he stuck with it. And if you compare these two movies, The Spider and Food of the Gods, he's so proud of the special effects. And when he was young and he figured out, how to do that, and then he put it in movies, he just like stuck with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean,
as we reflect on his life, he got a little reflective in his final chapter of this book, chapter 30, What's It All About? In looking back, my decision to go to Hollywood to make movies was, in reality, a foolish venture that had countless elements against my succeeding. I didn't know anyone in Hollywood to turn to for advice. Without a map, I didn't even know where the Hollywood studios were located. My experience making 16mm TV commercials in Minneapolis was considered in Hollywood as next to being a rank amateur. And as thousands before me had encountered closed doors in their fruitless attempts to break through Hollywood's impregnable wall, what made me think I could do it? Some people believe that the events in a person's life are preordained in a life script presented to him or her at birth. Others believe that destiny is in the driver's seat, pulling the strings that control the events of their life, like a puppeteer controls his puppets. And still others believe that the events in one's life are just a series of coincidences. I've asked myself many times which of the influences possibly made it happen for me. The most important moment in which the promoter saw me with my movie camera and asked me if I'd like to make a feature movie with him, or perhaps it was none of the above. Rest in peace, Bert I. Gordon.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you want to leave any comments or feedback, multiple ways to do that. Easiest way for you, if you're watching this, is just to leave a comment below. We would certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely.